You are watching William Patterson University Television.
Welcome back to the desk. We have Jesse, Joe, Steven, and Chris here to break down an eventful week in WP basketball. Fellas, we got to start with a little bit of bad news. The women's team, unfortunately, did not make the NJAC playoffs. As we take a look at the final NJAC standings, Jesse, what did you see from the season as a whole?
Well, when you take a look at the standings, we have William Patterson sitting at the 7th seed right outside. You have Kane above them at 6. We had some tough losses to Kane. Rutgers Camden and Rutgers Newark 4 and 5. Montclair stayed up there, and then the dominant forces of Rowan and TCNJ. I like to highlight that 8th seed because that is Ramapo, who is 6 and 12 in the NJAC. Now, when you look at that, we lost 2 games to Ramapo. Huge, huge losses. They're not a good conference team. Lost 6 games. A third of those were to us. As far as I'm concerned, this season was a failure. We had a bad road record. I mean, everything top to bottom. We had hot and cold streaks. We would win 3, we would lose 5. Losing 4 games to close out the season, it's no wonder we aren't in the playoffs. It's a shame, but we brought it on ourselves.
It is a shame. It was a very tough season. It's also important to note that there were a lot of close games in some of these hot and cold stretches where if they just win a couple more possessions, we would be talking about them in the playoffs. Before we move out of the women's team, just an acknowledgement to the seniors for the team who graduated: Simone Small, Carolyn Hill, CC Green, and Julie Rovito. Thank you so much for your contributions to the Lady Pioneers. On the flip side, the men's team will be going to the NJAC tournament. They had 2 big wins this week against Ramapo and TCNJ. Steven, the Ramapo game, overtime thriller. As we take a look at some footage and some stats, what did you see from that game?
Yeah, I'm kind of lost for words. The Ramapo game was incredible. You take a look at the stats. We edged out the victory 82-81. The bench points, our bench has been stellar to say the least all year. 25-9 in bench points. Free throws, we didn't go to the line as much, which is a negative because they went to the line a lot. So we got into some foul trouble. And assists, the backcourt was phenomenal to say the least. The fact that we went into we beat Ramapo, and we're facing them in just a few days. Tomorrow, what am I saying? Ramapo knows it's in the front of their head, not even the back. They just beat us, and now it's an even bigger stage, and they're riding all the momentum. The Pioneers, they have the world on their shoulders here. Like the last year's run, the Cinderella story. You look at the footage. The Pioneers just played an overall complete game. And again, there's not enough words I can say about perfection, really.
Chris, what happened here?
And not only that, you saw Dominic Mignon go off for a career-high 27 points in a win, this win that Sean Smith hit the game-winning shot. It was a fantastic effort from Dominic Mignon because he's been the guy setting the table all season long. Sean Smith is the one who will come through and hit the threes and send us on big runs, but Dominic Mignon is the guy who weathers the storm for this team, and he's only a sophomore, and that's the best part about it. Career high against Ramapo. They haven't been able to stop him in either matchup. He hit 5 threes in this most recent matchup. Look for him in this upcoming matchup tomorrow.
Joe, you were on the call for this Ramapo game. What did you see?
I saw the Pioneers come out and they played clutch and good basketball. And they proved that Ramapo, despite, maybe looking like the better team on paper, they came out strong and they held their own against them. And as we touched on, Mignon and Sean Smith played outstanding games. It was a very clean game, and the shooting was unbelievable down the stretch for the Pioneers.
Jesse.
Ramapo kicked us out of the tournament last year. We got all the way to the championship game. This victory felt good, but a win tomorrow will feel even better. And I like our chances against this team. I mean, we're going to get more into it later, but this team and us stack up pretty well together. We had a chance to be anywhere from the 6 seed to the 3 seed, and I don't think anybody wanted to play us going into the tournament.
Absolutely not. And before we got to the playoffs, we had one more matchup against TCNJ, a solid win for the men's team. Joe, what did you see from the TCNJ game?
I saw a wonderfully played game. As we go to look at the stats here, the Pioneers came out, they put up 91 points against TCNJ. They had an unbelievable performance, but what I'd like to highlight is the field goal percentage. Shooting 45 from the field is an unbelievable mark, and that is going to be very important for them shooting going into the playoffs. I'd also like to draw attention to the 9 of 21 from beyond the arc. They've been wonderful from 3, and of course, as Chris touched on, his boy Dom Mignon was dominant in this game. He he put up another 20-plus points game, and the bench put up 40 points. So it was just really an overall wonderful game for the Pioneers.
Going into the playoffs, the bench is going to be a huge part for the Pioneers, and they're coming together as of late. Also, the refs have been calling a lot more fouls and giving more free throws. So it's nice to see us hitting them.
Absolutely. That TCNJ game certainly cemented our status as the 5 seed heading into the NJAC tournament. Let's take a look real quick at the NJAC standings, the final standings. You see William Patterson there, 11-7, tied really. It could have been anywhere between 3rd and 5th. We had that matchup with Ramapo. Montclair State get in there too. TCNJ just squeaking in. Fellas, men's team has high hopes for this NJAC tournament. As we could see there, against Ramapo, we just beat them a week ago. Jesse, what do we know about Ramapo heading into this game?
Well, right now we know a lot about Ramapo, especially because we just beat them. But when we look at the scouting report on what we need to do, the number one thing for me right away, we need to shoot threes, and we need to keep shooting threes. That's definitely the thing that we need to do. Another thing, get to the free throw line. We looked last time, we didn't get there nearly as much as they did. We need to make their bench beat us. As I just said, our bench is really coming alive. We have to force the turnovers because we give the ball up a lot. We don't play very controlled basketball. But the best way to combat that is to play very aggressive and attacking defense.
All right. Well, we wish the Pioneers men's team luck against Ramapo tomorrow night. We'll stay on campus and preview WP baseball right after this. Keep it locked.